Hello and welcome to Sandy on Talent. I am so excited today. I've been thinking about this kind of all week that we're going to have a chance to spend time together with Mark Thompson. And I have been an admirer of Mark for, it must be 2 decades. And we've known each other pretty well for a while now. But I don't know that we've ever had this conversation before. And I want to take the time for everyone who's listening to this to really give a proper introduction to Mark. He's a humble guy. I'm going to talk about him for a minute. So meet Dr. Mark C. Thompson, the founding CEO and chairman of the Chief Executive Alliance, a $115 million leadership development firm focused on CEO readiness. Just think about that for a second, CEO readiness. And you know, Mark, how relevant that is to me. And we're going to talk more about that today. He served as chief executive officer of the CEO Academy, a SHRM company in partnership with McKinsey and the Wharton School. Mark's been called the world's #1 CEO coach, and it's well-deserved. And in 2023, became the first coach ever inducted into the Thinkers 50 Coaching Hall of Fame. Over 30 years of scaling companies, he has coached founders and CEOs from major companies, from Pinterest and Lyft to Waymo and Kraft Heinz. More than 88 senior executive engagements. Just think about that for a second, 88. And we're talking 88 CEO level people. That's not 88, Mark started his career as chief of staff to Charles Schwab and later served as chief experience officer of Schwab.com. He's a New York Times best-selling author. His latest book is CEO Ready, How to Earn and Keep the Job. Keeping the job, no small task these days. It's published by the Harvard Business Review in 2025. I've had the privilege and opportunity to read the book, and it's terrific. It's just filled with real world stuff. And any of us that have the chance to interact with CEOs and so on know the practicality of the wisdom that is in that book. He's here to talk about finding and maintaining excellence at the highest level. Mark, I'm so happy that you could be here with us, and welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be a part of your incredible series here, and even more privileged to call you my friend and mentor, because the work that you do has really unlocked so much value for companies at a global level, and I think more importantly, as individual professionals, from our individual journey to the work that we do. So thank you, Sandy. It's a blessing to know you and to know the work that you're doing. So I'm delighted to be here.
I did a kind of a search of, stuff about Steve Jobs, and you see these clips of things that he said along the way. And you go, wow. The world tried to paint him as this huge, horrible guy. But I saw something the other day about, foreshadowing that he did of artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that, people talk about someone they want to learn from. I'd like to learn from Aristotle. I would like to have Aristotle in my boardroom. And he goes, by the way, guess what? One of these days, technology will make it possible, and it will be able to codify all the wisdom of Aristotle, and you will be able to interact with him. Absolutely. And here we are. That was Steve Jobs. And that was in like 1980 when he was introducing like one of the versions of the Macintosh or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is why he noticed that Siri was AI. It's the earliest fully scaled. We're all derisive about it because it's now behind but it was 2 generations ahead, and we didn't call it AI. We called it
Yeah.
Serial.
Yeah.
And it was doing that. Now it has the next gen. And it was his vision that saw that. In fact, frankly, he was able to give them like a few shares of Apple to buy the company because he believed in it so much. And they were better off getting the Apple stock because they shared that vision. And Steve,
Yeah.
actually, I have a very brief interview with Steve in my collection for the Chief Executive Alliance. I have 300 podcasts like the one we're doing. And it started with Steve Jobs. And he was CEO of both Pixar and Apple at the time. And I was terrified to go see him because he had just walked off of the set at CBS News or something. They'd struck him the wrong way, and he just stormed out of the place. And here I was doing a Schwab interview with him saying, well, I've got lots of little investors who all add up to, about 15% of your capitalization. Will you talk to me? And that was my whole pitch. I went from entrepreneur to entrepreneur and just said, hey, collectively, we're retail investors. We're the little guy. We're not rich, but together we represent 20% or 10%. And everybody said yes. And he was the first to say that's a cool thing to do. And at the time, when you listen to the interview, he was talking about just how excited he was that I have more PhDs at my cartoon company than most semiconductor companies because I'm going to totally transform what Pixar can do in terms of representing. It's high risk. And so what I found, what really got me into coaching the big brands is that there's FOMO in two directions. The little companies, the entrepreneurial companies, shouldn't have a chance. You shouldn't have a prayer against the big guys. They don't have distribution. The assumption was they didn't have the money, but they do today. They certainly don't have the experience or the net in place. So they'd like to be the big guy. And on the other hand, the big guys would love to somehow get their mojo back and reinvent themselves sufficiently before all the tire biters that are coming at their heels that I've worked with start to make a big difference or a big dent on or erode or cannibalize their market. So I've found that I've always my CEO coaching practices, because the richness is I could be pointing to something like Pinterest, which invented an entirely new category for a platform, not even social media actually, which we took public on the New York Stock Exchange. And then on the other hand, we have companies that have been able to reinvent themselves yet again. Intel is now rising like a phoenix. I remember working with Intel back in the Andy Grove days when we brought him to Stanford, and that was a different scene, but only the paranoid survive. That's his book, right?
Yeah.
It's as relevant today
as it was, as it ever was.
As it ever was, more so perhaps than ever. And as soon as you stop being productively paranoid, you're in trouble. Period.
Yeah.
And so you see companies. That's why I feel like this notion, what everybody has in common, is that they have to get to scale.
What advice would you give to them that would put them on the path of success?
Well, I'd say mostly and is often the most surprising thing for them is that they have to qualify twice. First, they have to qualify from the standpoint of realizing they actually, it's unbelievable with all your experience and the rock star that you've been and the performance that you've achieved, that you actually don't have all the skills or agency that you need to win. So if you really want to win in the Olympics, is it possible for you to win this race? And do you have the skills to do it? That combination of agency and skills comes right up front. If you're playing to win, if you want the gold, let's not just pretend. This isn't a title. This isn't a race. This is like my incredibly brilliant professor wife at Vanderbilt has written a lot about organizational performance. She says it's not a prize to be won. It's a privilege and a strategy that's required. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece is selection. Life isn't fair. They're not going to pick everybody. There's only one that they're going to choose. And so how is it that you think that you might not deserve to be selected, but that you'd be willing to put yourself in a place where the stakeholders want to select you? And
Mm.
so it's that stakeholder management piece that ends up being usually out of the normal view that you had in your swim lane,
Yeah.
which you had a view of when you were running the biggest, most profitable division of the company, or you were CFO, so you thought you had an enterprise view. And you have a lot of both. That's why you're on the short list. That's why you probably do deserve the job, but you don't see what you can't see if you don't imagine what new skills and agency that you will need to be developing, and how you need to win the hearts and minds of 7 stakeholders, of which you probably only know 2 or 3. So that to me ends up being a game changer, and you will get the next job. You will have higher levels of responsibility, and you'll either be CEO here or somewhere else. It's a large enough end. We know it works.